Feliciano, I mean, the good thing about him is he does give you position flex. He can play guard or center. And you certainly love that Bobby Johnson, the Bills' current offensive line coach, was with him for 3 years in Oakland. And so they know what type of person he is. And, Feliciano, one thing that you notice is that he never was a starter, right? But that's because he's behind 3 Pro Bowlers and Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, and Kalichi Osemele.
Great point.
With the Raiders. There's not a path for him to get on the field, but when he got on the field, the flashes were there, and he gives them an edge, a nastiness about him. He's a physical player, a guy that wants to put dudes on their back, and I think that was kind of missing last year. When you lose Cordy Glenn, Eric Wood, Richie Incognito literally in the span of a few weeks, and you really don't do much to replace them, you kind of lose those guys, those tone setters up front. And so I don't know if Feliciano is going to win one of these starting guard jobs or if he's going to be a utility blocker, that's 6 offensive linemen at times. I think he'll have a role in either one of those 2 things I just mentioned. But there's no way you just go into the season and say, Wyatt Teller, you're the left guard. That's a 5th-round pick from last year who played well last year, but you don't just put him in. Just like with Levi Wallace, an undrafted guy who played really well down the stretch. You don't just hand him that job. I liken this to the Matt Milano situation with Ramon Humber last year. Matt Milano was always going to be the starting linebacker for the Bills last year. It was never going to be Ramon Humber. But Ramon Humber, what he did was he was that veteran behind him to push him, to make sure he was focused and locked in. And you even remember times throughout preseason, even OTAs, those types of things where there was this rotation. And every once in a while, quote unquote, Milano was benched for Humber, and everyone was like, oh, what are we doing? We're wasting reps. It's got to be Milano. Humber stinks. No, that stuff's intentional. And what you do is you've created this environment of competition where everyone has to be their best. And the Bills actually have a deep roster for the first time in a long time, and it's going to breed the best in every single player. So kind of a roundabout way to get back to Feliciano here. I think he'll have a chance to compete at guard, and I think there's legitimately 4 or 5 names that could fill those 2 spots. He'll be in the mix. Insecki's interesting. Very similar situation where he had a long journey to the NFL. I mean, arena football, low arena football, CFL. I mean, he was